Good afternoon and welcome to today's live stream. In this session, we're talking about building a Claude assistant that actually knows your business, not a generic chatbot, but something trained on your context, your processes, and your way of working. Crispin's going to walk you through the fundamentals of building a skill effectively so you can come away with something that you can start building and using straight away. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end, hopefully. So drop your questions in the comments, whether that's on LinkedIn or YouTube today, and we'll try to pick them up for the Q&A at the end. Time for me to disappear, and Crispin, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Yeah, Rob's been cautious about the Q&A because I just realized that I haven't timed this, but I'm definitely hoping to get done in 20 minutes, so we've got some good time for the questions. Questions are always kind of the best bit in this webinar series. So yeah, this is what we're looking at today, is building a Claude assistant that actually knows you and your business. So by the end, I'll show you the skill that I've built up that I can just voice note, and it can be a drafted email, can add task boards, add notes, adjust notes, find space in people's calendars, can do loads of different stuff. But that's kind of the end point. And I want to stress that this is not like a setup for you to copy. I'm going to show you how I built my VA assistant so that you can build yours. So when you see a lot of people on Instagram and TikTok and what have you, and they'll say, oh, comment this and I'll send you the skill. Those things they're generic, and they are, and the purpose is to get you to comment, right, and to boost the numbers there. So this is a bit more involved because it's about how you do the actual work to get your one to work. And as ever, my mantra of people, process, tools, in that order. In this case, people is you. So we're going to kind of skip straight away to process and documentation, and that's where this all comes to part. So I'm not a techie person. This is something as a techie person myself, and this is something I've heard a lot my career, especially early on. The leaders above me would always be distancing themselves from the work that the technical people did. That's the techie people, that's their job. I don't have to do that stuff because the techie people do it. And that's a weird thing. I always thought that was weird, of course, because I was like elbows deep in all this stuff and I didn't think it was so difficult. But over the last 20, 30 years, the tech has become ever more and more easy and accessible to learn. But still, in some cases, that people just haven't bothered. PowerPoint is 30 years old or whatever, and like Google Slides, and people still create Word documents without semantic headings and without proper word processing, which is crazy that they didn't learn how to do that stuff. Anyway, this thing of like, I'm not a techie person, I think it is these days, it's no longer valid. Like, everybody uses tech every day. And the things that you are doing, the things that you need to do to get loads more out of large language models are a little bit more complicated than learning Instagram, a little bit more complicated. It's not, we're not asking people to refactor JavaScript functions or write bash scripts. Your interaction with technology is levels above that now. So the good news is that it is pretty easy to learn, pretty easy to progress. And also, like, as a leader, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know all of the stuff about how it works. You just need to know enough to lead it and to make it work for you. And those are the foundations that I'll give you today. So who am I to be talking about this? If you don't know me, hello, I'm Crispin. I started working tech in the olden days, like before Google existed, back when people used to say www. As a prefix for a web address. And I had a career in software development and digital strategy and UX. And the Coders Guild is actually my hobby project that got out of control a while ago when I became really interested in digital skills training, and in particular how we learn complicated digital skills in a work environment that's practical. Last year, I spent a lot of time working with Skills England and the Alan Turing Institute I led the research and development for the new level 4 AI and automation apprenticeship. And during that process, I talked to dozens of high growth SMEs about their projects, about their problems, about their barriers. We also had some research collated by Innovate for hundreds more businesses about their issues and about their wants and needs. And then that led to not just the creation of the apprenticeship, but also like our understanding of AI and automation as digital adoption, as digital transformation inside teams and small businesses in particular. And also I live this, right? I run a business at Coders Guild. We've had crazy successes with improving efficiency and productivity with AI and automations, and that's what I want to share with everybody. So what's our problem? If you've been to some of our other webinars, you would have seen this slide before. It's a thing Anthropic put out a couple of months ago of the stretch of where AI is theoretically implementable across different industries and functions. And then the red, that's the blue bit. And then the red bit is where people are actually using it. So there is an enormous amount of potential here that is not being used. Even though we're doing bits with AI, we're not getting the efficiency gains that we should be. So, you know, we've got there's research is consistent across everywhere. You know, between 10 and 55% is available for efficiency gains by using these tools. And what that means for, you know, what does that mean for a business? Even if you look at the floor of like 10%, if you're a business that's turning over 1.2 million, there's 120K a year of available efficiency. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to talk a bit about like the main concepts that you need to understand to build your own stuff. And the example demo that I'll be giving you is my VA skill that is like my routing for most of my tasks. And in that I will talk to you about the kind of the words that you hear, like context and tokens and things like that, and explain them, because it's important that you understand those in order to understand how the system works. And then once you got that bit, basically you're just talking to the thing to create stuff. So I'm very proud of this slide because it took ages. You would have heard things about the context window, context tokens. So let me just explain that. So you at the start of your chat, which is over on the left side here, you set the context. You've written your main prompt, and then you get a response, and then there's another prompt and response, prompt. Now, all the little dots, they represent tokens. So you can think of those as a word, but really they're a bit smaller than a word, but you're burning through these tokens to make things happen. Now, your LLM can only hold so much in the context. So once you the chat started getting long, your LLM starts forgetting the stuff that was earlier on. So you have to keep bringing it back in. So this is when you talk about things like a system prompt. This is things that we are loading in at the beginning of the conversation. Prompt engineering is writing a really good prompt at the beginning, or being very specific about what you're asking so that you are giving context in a very efficient way. And context rot is another thing. So that is when you've burned out of the context window, so you're starting to get worse results because it's that your chat is forgetting things. It's an easy way to think about it. So talking about like the history of that, 12, 18 months ago, we were writing huge prompts, sides and sides of, hundreds and hundreds of words to set the context for a chat so that we could get those results quickly and efficiently. So to think about it, context is what it already knows or what it's holding in the current context. And then the prompting is what you are typing. So how do we, nowadays, we don't tend to write these huge prompts. We don't tend to go backwards and forwards, restating things again and again, or we don't want to, because that burns up tokens and it's inefficient and it doesn't give you great results. So context engineering. This is setting up the context so that your chat is efficient. That's the easiest way to think about it. So the extra things that have landed inside LLMs, I'm using Claude as an example in this demo, but very similar things exist with other LLMs. They might be called different things and setup might be slightly different, but essentially they'll all have memory now. So memory is the things it is remembering based on the things you keep repeating or the things that you say are important. So that loads automatically. That's always getting loaded into the chats that you're having. So it's setting that context with all the stuff in the memory and all the stuff in like the custom instructions and the things that you set up as like, this is who I am. This is my job. This is how I want you to talk to me. This is how I want you to respond. I want you to be super formal, or I want you to be really informal, those sorts of things. So that stuff is going into your chat every time. And one of the things I should say is you can control that memory, because if you're getting repeated mistakes, you can say, you keep saying this, but actually the response I want is this, or we should think about this in this way, or this is how my business operates, or this is what I want to happen at this stage. Put that in your memory, and then the chat will go and update the memory. So that's a really quick loop where you can improve your experience just by using the memory. Now, I've put a thing here of project. Now, we did a session last month about setting Claude up for your team. Again, Claude, you could substitute ChatGPT or whatever. It's more about like the organization as people. How do we organize ourselves in a shared digital environment? And a lot of that we were talking about projects, as in like, so projects can group certain things, skills and knowledge, basically. So in this case, you can think about a project as you are the project. So what is the knowledge that's specific to you? What are the skills that are specific to you or your business? So skills are repeatable tasks. So you think about what's the examples I've got here? To draft a proposal. What are the steps you take to draft a proposal? What does it look like? What's the headings? How do we follow up after a sales call? How do we turn these meeting notes into the actions that we want? What's our format for this sort of stuff? How do we respond to an inquiry? So those are repeatable things that happen. And then here on our knowledge side, that's more maybe it's more like the nouns. Knowledge is the nouns, skills are the verbs. So this is static documents or bits of knowledge. How do we make money as a business? Who's our ideal customer? What's our customer value proposition? What's our B2B elements of value? What's our SWOT or PESTLE or all of those things? So all of these things that you could add as different bits of knowledge, there you could add them at different levels. So this is the basics of setting up how your environment looks. But now I want to talk about like where does all that stuff go? Because you don't want to load everything in at once. This is like, we don't want to give every single bit of company information that we've got to every single chat. We don't need to load all of the skills for everything for every single chat. You can see like the little arrow here of like when relevant. If you're having a chat and you start talking about a proposal, your chat is going to think, oh, I'll use the proposal skill. Or if it gives you a response, it's like, oh, you didn't use the proposal skill. You could say, you didn't use the proposal skill, and it'll be like, oh, sorry, let me just adjust that for you. Now I'm reading the skill and get that better result. So it's setting these things up that give you these better results. So what does Claude need to know about me to be useful? It needs to know things about your business. It needs to know things maybe about your team, or maybe things that are specific to a project. So these skills and knowledge could be specific to you as a person, or in your specific role. They could be for a project, it could be for a team, it could be for a business. And if you organize those things correctly, and you could have things that are cross project, or in a team and a project and the business, it doesn't matter. It's just like the organization of where that knowledge, those knowledge and skills reside in the large language models. That's how can you get really efficient prompting and efficient responses. So you can bring those things into at the relevant time. So now, as you're not supposed to do in webinars, I will switch the presentation, and we'll look at a demo skill that I've built. Here we are, Claude. So this is what a skill looks like. If I show you in code form, it's written in markdown, which is I feel like it's the new QR code. The things that came out 20-25 years ago that everyone hated at the time, but now everyone loves. So markdown is just a really quick way of organizing text. And so, so when we look at the visual side of it, we can put things in tables, we can have quotes, we can have headings, but it's very, very light on file size. So not only does that mean the storage is cheaper, is better, but it also means it's much quicker for a large language model to read. It's not like you give it a PDF. We're burning tokens there, because a PDF, it's gonna take a picture of it, and then it's gonna OCR, as in like extract all of the text data and then read the text. So whereas this, it's ASCII, it's just reading every single little word here, or bit of a word. That's your token. So it's much more efficient. So I'm just gonna kind of whiz through talking through what this skill does. And I guess the important thing is, because I have set up my projects, my skills, my knowledge, that makes this sort of thing possible. But I'll come back to how we get here in a moment. What I've got in this VA, this is a demo version. I have anonymized all the stuff, so I'm free to share it. So lots of the stuff is all made up. There's no emails or stuff in here, or board identities. So this is the main thing about routing logic, where listen for these sorts of keywords. If I say draft, send, reply, I'm talking about email. There's task creation. There are bits where I keep notes, and that's generally in Notion. There are things where I want to do with calendar, and that's Google Calendar. Where if I'm talking about document or writing a document, then that's going to be something into Google Drive. It's a bit more than notes, so on. So this is like my first pass at what I want my VA to do. I'm telling it all about myself, my regular stuff. Now this is where I'm at with this project right now. It's an ongoing project. It's going to go on for ages. But past iterations of this have been a lot more complicated. I can remember where it started up, but previously this has been like a thing on Telegram, a voice note on Telegram that went to NAN and got routed and used OpenAI Whisper to do transcript and then sent things back to different places. It's been a RAG system of like memories and tasks or routing that was held in Notion. It's had loads of different iterations, but this newest one, which is only like a week or so old, is now that skills are so powerful in Claude. I was able to put all of that tech into just you can just do that in a skill. So I'm just telling the language model, when I say this, I mean do this. There's got rules about what I want to do. So don't ever send an email. You're only doing things in draft. You've got your tone of voice from the voice skill. So I've got a voice skill that says, am I just replying to someone in the team? You can draft something that's more informal. Am I writing to the DWP about something? And then it's maybe a bit more formal. So it can make, this voice skill makes decisions about how to draft stuff for me. And again, this is human in the lead. I'm not automating away my decisions. I'm getting things drafted for me so that I can go in and edit them and change them to what they are supposed to be. We've got this task creation. So Monday is our like joint thing, but I've got like a personal task list in there, but I can send things to all different tasks, all different boards. These little drinks, our task stuff is in Notion, not in Monday. So there's some stuff there, but stuff about calendar and scheduling, recurring meetings. Again, there's more information in other skills. So what I'm trying to do is be efficient with what's the top level that my VA needs to know. And if it needs more clarification, it can go off to those other skills. It's got things here about these are fake, of course, but different Notion pages I use regularly, different Monday boards I use regularly, different Google Drive folders, and a glossary of like shorthand and abbreviations for what these things mean. So I can just like babble away in jargon and have that. There's some stuff here about the people and contacts as well. Scheduling rules. This is 10 to 12 is good. No back-to-back meetings, put a 15-minute buffer when I'm saying, so if I give a task of like, find me a time with Francesca where that on Monday, it's not going to back-to-back or go in between one of her meetings. It's going to look for an appropriate time. So I'll just come back now to my final bit of slides. Stop that one, back to my slides. Here we go. So one of the things I wanted to make clear is that, like, obviously, I've kind of rushed through about a load of things, talking about skills and talking about knowledge files and how they operate. We've got another, the webinar that we did about setting Claude up for Teams is on the website. If you would like a link to that, just let us know in the comments and we will pop you a link to go and see that one. That explains how projects, knowledge, skills a bit further. Also connectors, I talked there about like email and Notion and calendar. People are often a bit worried about setting these connectors up and letting them run, but we're doing a session. Our next session, which is the beginning of next month, is about setting those up and like a few sort of bits of best practice around that. Also, remiss of me not to mention that we do, of course, run courses around this stuff. So if you would like to learn about this stuff with a group of people over a short course or a longer apprenticeship, then let us know in the comments and we'll get in touch. So my thing to leave on, I've got a few minutes there for questions, so I haven't gone too far over. But I think my point here is your first step is to start the work, right? So you start a conversation with Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity or Copilot to help you build this stuff up. I'm looking to set up a VA. I'm looking to give you more information about our business and how that works. Help me. What documents do I need? What documents could you help me create? Starting that conversation will get you to the next steps. Also, in the I would say that in the blog post that we will put out tomorrow, probably Monday, I'll add some like starter prompts for you for starting those conversations, so you can use them. So yeah, just please do get stuck in. Block out an afternoon next week. You'll feel the difference immediately, and incremental from there. All of the efficiencies compound. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really good. And I before you mentioned that you'd anonymized it, I started to panic, thinking that I've been avoiding some of the weekly meetings. But
I just told Claude that kind of copy my VA skill, but anonymize all the stuff, put some random things in, and I think some people got some crazy job titles too.
Okay, so we've had a DM message in that Francesca shared. How can you share these skills company-wide?
Oh, that's a great question. So the skills can be personal. In the customized section where I was doing the demo, the skills are actually split there between your personal ones, and then there's shared ones, and then there's organizational ones. So you can have ones that are shared in a project, you can have ones that are shared between specific people, and you can have ones that are organization wide. So, and that is such a powerful thing when you've got a shared way of doing things, and we use that a lot in where we have skills that we are constantly updating as new things happen. And it's such a good way of working, that we're constantly in this retrospective mindset of reflecting on how that's working, how that's getting better, and then updating the skill through having meetings about it, and then taking the transcript and getting an update to the skill just from that.
I think there's a kind of a relevant kind of follow-up question. It's quite long. Do you share any of the skills with the rest of your team? That might be a slight delay on this. Information about the business seems like something that would be relevant to be shared with your whole team rather than managed individually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, kind of plugging the webinar we did a few weeks back of like that team setup. So when we were going through that, we have projects that are that give us that hierarchy. So these skills are only available to these people. This knowledge is only available to these people. So you can be really granular with all of the things. Like when we talk about the connectors next month, that we can show like how granular you can be with those permissions too.
Question from Tom: do you externally host the always on agents, or do you run it locally on a server?
Well, different. Depends. Our general Claude Teams stuff is all with Claude, so all of those things are hosted there. We have this is something for later on, as in maybe with the Claude code one we're going to run later in the summer. But we're in the process of getting these markdown files actually out of Claude, and then having them in GitHub. So we're retaining our own information. So all our skills and knowledge would be held externally and called in. And that, I mean, that's like a future thing of then getting everyone to a localized thing. But the mechanism is available, basically. So I have other projects where we are sharing skills that are specifically private, and they are on a private repository on GitHub, and you have to have access to that to download it or to clone it to your and then run things locally. It's a use case by use case.
Yeah, we have some things still on NA10 with agents running on them 24/7. It depends on exactly the use case. So there's a question on YouTube. I don't know how to put it on the stage, but how long does it take to get a VA set up?
Well, I guess this has been like an ongoing project of mine for literally years. But it's kind of it's a marked thing that's like probably a 3-year project of things that I've been trying to do to the effect of that. But that version of it probably took me, I don't know, an hour of backwardsing and forwardsing and getting things from old bits of way things are working. I think if I was starting from scratch to build something like that now, not long at all. And I think like if I carved out an afternoon, like I was saying just now, if you put out an afternoon and then started the conversation, you'll be collecting documents and putting them in knowledge. You'll start to create a few skills. In an afternoon, you could definitely do like a small company setup. I think 1 or 2 people.
And it's not something that you should ever consider done. It's something that evolves over time. Like you said, you have iterated over and over again, but the power of the current Claude models and setup means that it is just becoming even better each and every time you go through the process of improving it. But it is a discipline to make sure that at the end of an output or at the end of a week that you review where it's gone wrong and what you can do better, which is quite often the phrase that I drop into Claude. And so yeah, the blocking out some time to do the majority of the prep work, but then making sure that you're constantly updating it just out of habit.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think like things like this, think back to the first slide of like, oh, I'm not a techie person. These sorts of things used to be so far out of reach of everyone. And now you can talk it into existence. You know, the first version of that I built took me ages and was reliant on loads of different systems and didn't work very well. And I didn't have the time to put into it. Effectively just trying to build an app by clunking things together. Whereas now the technology exists that we can virtually talk these things into existence really quickly, and they can be really personal and valuable. But you've got to do the work, right? You know, it's the whole thing is iterative. It's going to get better, and the best thing you can do is start.
I think we'll just have one last one from Abigail. Are there any good Reads videos to explain what's possible with this kind of model for beginners?
Yeah, so go back to like touting our own webinars. I think like that's got a kind of a flow to it of getting into it. Anthropic have got a great resource section of things to learn. We'll put that in the comments as well, and I'll add it to the blog post. But like, I mean, I keep going to Claude because it's that like our system, but all of the large language models have training around how to use their products, and there are some really good creators on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, who are sharing really worthwhile stuff. In the blog post as well, I'll put some links up to there for people to follow.
Brilliant. Right, we've gone a little bit over, so just enough time to post the upcoming sessions that Crispin has already mentioned. But thank you so much for your time today. Please keep the comments going in LinkedIn and YouTube, and we will be following up with all of you. Please keep your eyes on the website for the blog post update, which we'll be sharing on LinkedIn as well. And it was great to have your time today, Crispin, and see you all again soon.
Thanks very much. Bye.